Now let's take a look at a really cool little new feature, I should say, that is inside of the new version of Camera Raw that came with Photoshop CS3. Now I'm actually using Camera Raw 4.1 here, and this was I'm recording this video in early June, and this was actually just released last week. However, Camera Raw 4.0, which came with CS3, also has this feature. And what you can do is, let's go ahead and let's say you've made some changes to the photo. So maybe we'll increase the exposure a little bit here and try to bring out some detail in the shadows by increasing fill light. And we'll go ahead and we'll say we're about done with this image. So what I can do here is right at the bottom, you're going to see that there's this little blue link, and if you click on it, it opens up what's called workflow options. Well, inside here you can tell how you want to open this photo inside of Photoshop. So what size do you want it to be? What color space do you want it to be in? But there's also this little area right at the bottom here, and see how it says open in Photoshop as a smart object. So I'm going to go ahead and check it, and then I'm going to click OK, and watch what happens. It's gonna bring me right back into Camera Raw, but now I'm going to click open object at the bottom here, and this is going to actually open that photo up inside of Photoshop CS3 any minute now. Here we go. It's going to open my photo up here inside of CS3, and I'll bring it to the center of the screen. I'm also going to bring my layers palette in and take a look at the layers palette, and specifically take a look at that little icon that's just to the bottom right of my image thumbnail here. Let me zoom in so you can see it. See that little icon? That means that this layer is a smart object. So at this point, what I would probably do here is go back to my photo, and maybe I would add a few adjustments. Maybe you might want to turn it to a black and white, so you could always add the black and white adjustment to it. There's a couple other things you might want to do. Maybe let's go ahead and hide black and white, and you could always add another adjustment here, say curves, and kind of boost the contrast a little bit, bring the blacks down, and maybe push the whites up a little bit. Click OK, and you'll see that now I have some things done here inside of my layers palette. But as you look at the photo, you may decide at a later time that you want to reprocess it inside of Camera Raw. Well, before you had this option, what you would have had to do is actually just go back into Camera Raw, open the photo again, and start from scratch, because what happened is it'd just be a regular layer, but now it's a smart object layer. That's where we went in and we checked that open in Photoshop as a smart object. And what this lets us do, if I double click on my smart object layer, it opens up Camera Raw again and opens the same photo inside of it. And if you notice here, it remembered the settings that I just used earlier in this video. So now I can come in here, maybe bring that exposure back down a little bit, and whenever we add some fill light, it's kind of a good idea to go in here and increase these blacks, because you might turn some of your darker colors kind of a muddy shade of gray. So I'll go in here and bump up these blacks, and then you could go in here, maybe even increase vibrance and say, you know what, I want to make it a little bit more colorful. Either way, you can come back in here, reprocess your photo inside of Camera Raw, make changes to any of the settings, click OK, all right, and watch what happens inside Photoshop. Do you see that? It kind of happened really fast. Let me undo. That's before and that's after. So it actually went inside there and it changed the file. So what this is doing is it's kind of, think of it this way. It's keeping a little bit of a link to your Camera Raw file. So now whenever you do open up a photo inside of Photoshop, if it's a RAW file, even if it's a JPEG, because you can open those in Camera Raw now too, but either way, you can open it up, make your changes to it, do your Photoshop styled changes to it, and if you opened it as a smart object, you can just double click on it, bring it right back into Camera Raw, and make some other changes as well.